Hello and welcome back, MTG Burgeoning community and YouTube viewing audience. If you are part of the latter and wish to join the former, click that subscribe button right now. And in so doing, you become eligible for any of the channel's sweet rewards. In today's special EDH video, we are taking a look at the top 10 commander cards for which our opponents are most grateful. Burgeoning fans, this is what's up for today. This is an EDH Commander top 10 list of the cards our opponents are most gracious to see us play. On this day of thanks, I thought it would be an appropriate time to craft such a list. So let's begin with the top 10 cards for which our opponents are most gracious. Number 10, Minds Aglow. This sorcery from Commander 2011 costs only 1 blue, but it has the seldom used and seldom seen Join Forces mechanic, which states, starting with us, each player may pay any amount of mana after the original casting cost of 1 blue. Each player then draws X cards, where X is the total amount of mana paid this way. So for example, if this is turn 5 and everyone has 5 mana available, everyone is going to be drawing a ton of cards if everybody taps to add mana to this spell. Can you imagine just sitting at the table and everyone taps their mana all the way around and you end up drawing 12, 16, 15, 14 cards just like that? Minds Aglow is number 10 on this special edition top 10 list. Number 9, we have Miko Koro, Center of the Sea. It's a legendary land. It turns sideways for a colorless mana, but we can tap it, and each player draws a card. So we can continuously repeat this process as long as we're still in the game. It's not a one-shot like Minds Aglow, although I don't believe over the course of a game we would draw as many cards from Miko Koro as we would from Minds Aglow. But still, it's good enough to make this top 10 list. Number 8 is Selvala, Explorer Returned. For 1 green and a white, it's a legendary elf scout that's 2/4, and it has the parlay mechanic. We can tap Selvala, Explorer Returned, and each player reveals the top card of their library. For each non-land card revealed this way, we add a green to our mana pool and gain 1 life. Then each player draws a card. So similar to Miko Koro, in a way in which we have to tap Selvala for everyone to eventually draw a card, we gain additional benefits from having Selvala tapped, of course. However, we still do put a card in each of our opponent's hands. I do think that's something to be thankful for, don't you? Very good. All right, card number 7. Original Jace Beleren, the very first iteration of Jace. He's 1 and 2 blue. He enters the battlefield with 3 loyalty counters. We can +2 Jace and have each player draw a card. We can -1 Jace and have target player draw a card. That's not really what this top 10 is about, however. And we can -10 Jace and have target player put the top 20 cards of their library into their graveyard. It's the +2 ability that we're focusing on for this special top 10. And just by putting 2 more loyalty counters on Jace, every player at the table gets to draw a card. And isn't that something to be thankful for? Rounding out our bottom 5, Temple Bell. Artifact that costs 3, we turn it sideways, and each player draws a card. That's it. No additional, gaining a green or gaining a life or needing to invest any additional mana, or it's only a one-time thing. Temple Bell goes onto the battlefield, we tap it, each player draws a card. There we go. Those are the bottom 5. Now we're moving on to the top 5. And for the top 5, they're going to be much different than the previous 5. Now, the previous 5 we needed to do something in order for our opponents to draw a card. With Minds Aglow, we had to tap mana. With Miko Koro, we had to tap mana and tap the land. With Selvala, we had to tap her to parlay. With Jace Beleren, we had to add a couple of loyalty counters. And then with Temple Bell, we had to turn Temple Bell sideways in order for each player to draw a card. For the last 5 cards, or the top 5 cards, we don't have to add anything else. We just put it onto the battlefield and it just automatically triggers, which makes our act of giving that much better. That much better for our opponents. All right, number 5. We have Kenios and Tiro of Meletis for red, green, white, and a blue. We have a 2/8 legendary human soldier, and at the beginning of our end step, we draw a card. Then each player may put a land card from his or her hand onto the battlefield. Then each opponent who didn't draws a card. So our opponents have the option of playing a land or drawing a card. I think that's a very, very giving way to say to our opponents, look, you can draw a card if you want, you can play an extra land, you can do whatever you want. This is something for you to be grateful for. Kenios and Tiro of Meletis from Commander 2016 is number 5 on this top 10 list. Number 4, Dictate of Kruphix. 1 in a blue, it's an enchantment that has flash, which means we can cast this card as though it were an instant. And what it says is that at the beginning of each player's draw step, that player draws an additional card. So strategically, we would most likely want to cast Dictate of Kruphix at the end of our last opponent's turn so that we're the first to benefit from this Howling Mine type of card and drawing an extra card. I'm not sure any of our opponents will mind when it's cast, as long as they get to reap some of the benefits of an extra card at the beginning of their draw step. Okay. Dictate of Kruphix is number 4. Number 3, staying in tune with blue, we have Cami of the Crescent Moon. Double blue, it's a 1/3 legendary spirit, and it simply says at the beginning of each player's draw step, that player draws an additional card. Very gracious. We cast this creature, we invest 2 blue mana, which could be used for so many other things like drawing cards or counterspelling things, and then we put this creature into play, and then we are the last to benefit from it. Just so thoughtful of us to do that for our opponents. Cami of the Crescent Moon. Now we're on to our top 2, and number 2 of this top 10, Rites of Flourishing. For 2 and a green, this enchantment reads, at the beginning of each player's draw step, that player draws an additional card. Additionally, because we just can't stop with the giving, each player may play an additional land on each of his or her turns. Outside of a flash-enabling spell, Rites of Flourishing comes down, and we are the last to benefit from it. Our opponents get to draw an extra card. They get to play an extra land. It's like we gave them each their own personal Howling Mind. I'm sorry, not Howling Mind. We gave them their own personal exploration and let them draw an additional card. If our opponents aren't gracious for this, then they're not gracious for anything. Rites of Flourishing is number 2. So what is number 1 on our list? What is the one single card for which our opponents are most gracious and we are most thankful for casting for them? The number 1 card is Howling Mine. 2 colorless at the beginning of each player's draw step. As long as Howling Mine is untapped, that player draws a card. Why is Howling Mine ahead of some of the other cards? If we shift to the left, why is it ahead of Rites of Flourishing? Why is it ahead of Cami of Crescent Moon? And why is it ahead of Dictate of Kruphix? When it pretty much does the exact same thing without the benefits of Rites of Flourishing? Simply put, Howling Mine can go in any deck. It being an artifact allows it to go in any deck possible. Howling Mine is looked at in such high light that in my play group, it is a long-standing, this is decades long, long-standing house rule that any player who plays a Howling Mine on any of the first 3 turns of the game has immunity to anything for that turn. 1 entire round of turns just for playing a Howling Mine grants that player immunity for an entire turn. Howling Mine is number 1 on this top 10 list of cards for which our opponents should be most grateful. This is MTG Burgeoning, folks, and it was my pleasure to bring this special top 10 on this special day. Go forth and enjoy this time.